Betty Rocker, and today I'm joined by two of my awesome friends who are both certified personal trainers. Jessica Williams is a certified personal trainer and a WBFF competitor. Maddie of Mad Wellness is a certified personal trainer, also who specializes in CrossFit and Olympic lifting. So I've got a real rock star team here with me today, and what we're going to do in this video is take you through 3 of the absolutely most effective booty building lifts. We're going to break them down for you, show you proper form, and help you really incorporate these lifts into your routine. So I'm going to get started with Jessica. We're going to go over the squat. All right, guys, so the very first lift that we're going to learn, Jessica's going to help me show you, is the squat. And she and I both agree that this is a move that we just love for building a butt.
Yes, all girls love big booties.
Well, not only that, building a great looking butt also does a lot for the function of your pelvis. We want to have strong glutes, balanced glutes to help stabilize our hips and help us in all of the movements that we do. So the thing about the squat that's really interesting is doing them wrong is one of the most common things that we see. And to really build a booty with the squat, you want to make sure that you're doing it with proper form. So we're going to go over that now. Would you show me what you see your clients do the most the wrong way with a squat?
First thing I do is bend forward like this. Put all their weight in the front of their toes.
Right, and we see that a lot. And I know that can be the tendency because actually it's really tough to imagine squatting down, do it with me, show us the right way, going all the way down and coming up and keeping your chest lifting. That's really the thing. So the reason we've got the box here for Jessica is because I'd really like you to begin learning squats with something to cue you about how you're going to be going down and coming up. Would you show us a few squats with the proper form? Now, a couple things that Jessica is doing right here is she's keeping her chest elevated throughout the movement. As she comes down, she's got her feet about shoulder width apart and toes tracking out slightly. Let that be natural for your foot alignment. Her knees are tracking in the same line as her toes, and her knees aren't shooting too far forward of her feet. So she's really keeping her weight back, and which is really allowing her to fire up the glutes each time she comes up from the lift. That's great. Would you turn to the front and show us a couple from the front just to show us your foot placement? Go for it. Now, Jess, would you tell us a couple things that you're keeping in mind with the squat that maybe I didn't mention?
Whenever I'm squatting, I always keep in mind to push my weight into my heels, and when I come up, really squeeze those glutes because that's what's going to form those glutes. Heels and glutes, that's what I keep in mind.
One thing that I always really like to think about is instead of pressing away, I like to think of pushing the earth down. So I call squats earth downs.
Yeah, I like that.
Super fun. So I'm going to have Jessica step on over to the bar now, and I just want to talk to you a little bit about positioning the bar on the rack. Now Jess is about 5'6". She set the bar up so that she just has to dip slightly to get underneath it, and it's going to be just a little bit below her shoulder line. So go ahead and pick up the bar, Jess. Notice how she's in a split squat stance, nice and stable for her as she picks that bar up. I'm just going to get out of the way. Now Jessica's going to do the exact same thing that she was doing with the box unweighted. She's squatting down, she's keeping the weight in her heels, she's keeping her weight back. You could almost imagine her sitting down to a box right now and coming back up. She's keeping her chest nice and straight, her head and neck in neutral. She looks great here. Arms are in a nice, just wider than shoulder width grip back. You feel pretty comfortable there, Jess?
Yeah.
Solid?
Yes.
Now from this angle, we can really watch how Jess's knees are lined up in line with her toes. We can see that same fulcrum of movement, that same axis of movement in her body. She looks really solid. Now one thing that I will tell you that a lot of people won't is that as she comes down, she's inhaling, her belly button is going in and up, which is actually activating and turning on her body's natural weight belt, her transverse abdominal muscles. This actually protects and stabilizes your pelvis and your lower spine. So the more weight you're loading up onto that bar, the more stable you want your lower lumbar to be. As she comes up, she breathes out through pursed lips to really help with the strength and the explosive movement. Go ahead and explode up on your next one. She's going to go slow down, pause at the bottom, and then press up. Now, we like to see you break 90 degrees or at least hit 90 degrees for a full body squat. Jess has just done an awful lot of these, but she's a trooper. And that is so that we get a full range of motion there, but I only want you squatting down as deep as you can go while maintaining this good form. There's absolutely nothing wrong with grabbing the box and putting it behind you with the weighted bar on your back to test yourself. I check in with myself on my squats regularly. Jess, you can go ahead and re-rack the bar. Notice how she sets it back down the same exact way she picked it up. Any last comments you'd like to make about the squats and anything that we were talking about that you want to add?
Well, my glutes are burning, so I just got a good workout there. Really just keep in mind everything that Betty Rocker said, you know, just keep your weight in your heels and squeeze the glutes.
And what would you do to self-care for your glutes? How would you stretch out your butt muscle after you did a bunch of squats?
I love the foam roll. That is my friend.
Yep.
And I always do some.
Yeah, show us.
This is one of my favorite glute stretches. I sit down, put this leg like this, and I pull back. So that way it really opens up the glute muscle on the side.
Love it. I do one sort of similar to that where I lay down, actually on my back, and pull up through here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thanks, Jess.
Thank you.
Woo! All right, guys, for our second move, we're going to work on learning the deadlift. And I've got Maddie here, and she's going to help me demonstrate two different variations of the deadlift. We've got the standard deadlift, and we've got the more stiff-legged deadlift.
Cool.
So we're going to go over those two lifts for you. And Maddie's going to start out with her feet about hip distance apart, maybe shoulder distance. What would you say that is?
Say hip distance, nice
Hip
little
distance.
scrape of the feet gets you
Yeah,
there.
good, awesome. Maddie, go ahead and show us how you would pick up the bar.
Yeah.
Show us a couple different hand grips. So she's got her hands about a little wider than shoulders here, and this is her regular overhand grip for this position. We can also try a mixed grip. This is one that I really like to do when I go up and weight. And I do try to switch hands, which hand is over, which hand is under, depending on the set. And those are the two that I prefer. So either an overhand or
totally.
mixed grip are my two preferences. Now, a couple things to keep in mind. Now, Maddie's got a nice flat back here. She's got her weight in her heels. She's got her hamstrings engaged, her butt is engaged, her chest and her head are going to stay up. So go ahead and pick up the bar for us. Show us how you. Yeah, it looks so good. Now, she pressed down through the heels. Remember what Jessica and I were talking about with earth downs? Maddie's also earth downing here with this deadlift. Would you do a few deads for us here? Would you show us your... Each time she comes down, she taps the plates down. Each time, her hips go back behind her. She keeps her chest lifting, gaze in front of her. Her back stays nice and flat here. She's not rounding her back at all. And I know that each time she comes up, she's breathing out. Each time she comes down, her belly button's coming in and up, again, engaging that transverse abdominal muscle, her body's natural weight belt, helping to stabilize her pelvis and her spine. Maddie, would you share any additional things as you're going through that lift that you think of when you're doing it, and then we'll talk about the Olympic lift?
Yeah, totally. I would say one of the most important things is not allowing your back to round. And I would say one of the places I see that happen the most is when we put a bar down. So when we're done with our set, we're like, yes! And put the bar down, and that rounding is where so many injuries happen. So being really diligent about putting a bar down at the end of the set, the same way as if you were linking another deadlift.
And I also noticed how each time you came up, you really engaged your hips, you really squeezed those glutes. It was really a pelvic pop, and also your bar stayed in really close to your body the whole time. You didn't allow it to kind of float out in front of you.
Totally. You think about the farther away that bar is, the heavier it's going to be, but also the more strain it's going to put on your low back. So keep that. I even scraped my bar up my legs.
Exactly. That's why you see a lot of people wearing socks.
Yeah, that's why I have some nice,
She's got some
nice
scrapes.
scars.
That's awesome. Now, that was basically a standard deadlift where you were
Totally.
bending. Would you show us a couple stiff-legged deadlifts?
Yeah, totally.
Go ahead and demo that for us. So again, she's got her good setup. She grabs the bar in a position that's comfortable for her. She gets herself set, and notice how that bar is staying in nice and close. She's squeezing her glutes, coming up nice. There's no bending here. Maddie, would you talk to us a little bit about how each time you come up, like where do you feel this activating a little differently with this lift as opposed to the other lift we just did?
Yeah, totally. So in a straight leg deadlift, I'm thinking the whole time about pressing my knees back, so I really make sure my legs are straight. And it's just gonna put a little bit more, like right on those hammies.
Exactly. So the straight leg deadlift is a little bit more targeted for the hamstrings.
Totally.
If you have any issues with your lower back, I highly recommend that you stick to the regular deadlift, and maybe you start out with dumbbells. That's real easy to do.
Yeah, start out nice and light with
Nice
a
and
straight leg deadlift.
Now, when say you're going to go up in weight significantly, because
Yeah.
I know you're a powerlifter, you train people to do really heavier lifts. Would you give us a few tips for those of us who are into the heavier lifting? What different points of setup would you use?
Yeah, totally. So one of my favorite ways to set up for like a heavy lift, say I'm like going for a 1 rep max deadlift. it can be hard to get super engaged when you're bent over like this. Like it's hard to think, how am I gonna engage my belly? How am I gonna engage my butt? So I like to kind of like rock a zombie setup. So it's also just like, oh, awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have the bar really close to my legs to begin. I'm gonna press through my heels, I'm gonna squeeze my butt, I'm gonna lock my ribs down, and then I'm gonna pull my shoulders back. So here it's really easy to feel that I'm engaged. And from there I'm gonna take that nice deep breath in that you were talking about, and then just lift the bar up.
Beautiful. That was such a good explanation. Now, one of the things I loved about what you just said is how she talked about she locks her shoulders back and keeps them there. That's super important no matter which of these styles you're taking,
Totally.
because you don't want your shoulders rounding forward. All of the work that's happening is happening here in your butt, in your hamstrings, and in your core. That's where the lift is coming from. It's not, your arms aren't pulling that bar up,
No,
right?
and I would say like one of my, and I have learned this lesson many a time, so you don't have to learn it yourself, is no lift is worth it. So if you get down to a heavy deadlift and you start to feel this low back break, just drop the weight.
Stop.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
Stop. Yeah. Thank you so much, dude. That was
Thank
freaking
you.
awesome. You're so badass. Yeah. All right, for our third and final mega butt building lift, we're gonna do some forward lunges. And the secret with this type of forward lunge is that you're gonna be putting all the pressure in the front toe. And Jessica and I were just doing these together, and we were like, oh my gosh, major booty.
Yeah.
So Jessica's gonna go ahead and start showing you how to do this move right now with no weight on, because I want to talk a little bit about proper forward lunge form. So you'll notice that she's keeping her chest nice and erect. Her head is looking forward. She's also keeping a lot of stability through her pelvis. She's not like wobbling around, going anywhere crazy. Nice and straight, core is nice and engaged here. And as she steps forward, her knee is lined right up in a nice 90-degree angle. That back leg is still right in line with her other legs. So she's got lots of nice straight body lines here, tracking in line. Her knee's not going forward over her toe. She looks really solid and secure here. Now the secret with this lift is each time she comes down, when she comes back, she's pressing through her toe here, okay? So remember before we were talking about pressing through the heels? With this move, if you press through the toe, you're gonna really fire the glute. And what's really fun about this is each time she comes down and comes back, it'll shift from your right glute to your left glute. You're gonna really feel it. So when you're holding the weight, of course, you're holding it straight across your shoulders, nice and secure. Want to make sure that your hair's out of the way, of course. She's got a good grip on the bar. Again, core is engaged, pelvis is nice and locked in place. And go ahead and step forward, Jess. Show us what you got. Again, same form applies here. You can, of course, add more weight. You could do this with dumbbells as well. I personally really love doing it with the weighted bar. It's crazy awesome for the glutes. She's really, you can see that she's a little, Jess did glutes yesterday. She trained glutes, so I know her glutes are a little tired. And so she's really being mindful here. Her knees aren't wobbling in or out. They're staying nice and straight in line with her feet. Great job. We were talking a little bit before about how lunges, traditionally, we tend to think of them as being a lot more quad focused,
Yeah.
right? I mean, but how did you feel about this move?
I felt it in my quads and my booty.
And
So,
had you done this type of lunge before?
I have not. This is my first time, so it was great.
Yeah, new move.
Oh, I
Awesome.
love it.
This is one of my little secret butt building moves. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
demoing that. Thank you guys so much for learning these 3 butt building moves with Maddie, Jessica, and myself. We had a blast talking to you. For more of my awesome strength training programs and to learn more about weight training, use the link right below this video and check out my brand new program. I will see you guys next time, and thank you so much for tuning in. Bye.
Bye.